Well, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock Wednesday, and it's been legal. It's May 21st, 2025, and this is episode 67 with myself, Peter Giblett, and her, Angela Browne.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Angela. How are you today?
Pretty good, Mr. Giblett.
Yep. Okay, let's give everybody the self-advertising here. If you need to contact us, it's Invictus Legal LLP. You can do so at 905-688-5598. Angela is at weareinvictus.legal, and I'm at peter@weareinvictus.legal, and the website is https://weareinvictus.legal. There you go.
Yep.
All right.
Invictus. Yep.
Yeah. So here's a big question for you. And we're not necessarily talking today, but hey, this is just a fanciful little question. So will you find legal products on the supermarket shelves? And, I think the answer is like right now, it's like maybe,
a bookstore.
Like alongside the tax products, for example.
Yep. You can get them in a bookstore.
Yeah. Well, in fact, actually, I have a CD at home, which the title was Your Wills.
Yep.
Yeah, make your own will.
Also have handle your own divorce. And then there's also buy or sell your own home.
Yeah, but in fact, actually, the trouble with buy or sell your own home, anyway, we'll go through.
Yeah, we'll get into this because
we'll go through to them. Yeah,
and then there's also products online you can find.
And more, and actually, some of these are more esoteric than they are real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So everybody knows you can go out and you can buy TurboTax or QuickTax or slow tax or or
slow tax
from the supermarket. You can go get those products.
The slower the better.
Every kind of January, February, March, April, and even May if you're really disturbed and you haven't put your tax return in yet. But so why not legal products alongside them?
Yeah, people have them and people have bought them. But still, I've seen people who have bought these legal products and have attempted to use them. They still show up at my doorstep. I did something wrong.
How do you fill in page 4?
Yep. What am I supposed to do here?
What is an APA? An APA? What an APA? Affidavit.
Yep.
What is that? What is one of them? That kind of thing. Yeah. And I was saying it. I was
these things like it seems simple. Many things are simple, but there's other things too. It's less the simplicity than more the consequences of how you fill them out. And what can happen is if you do one little mistake,
well,
especially those will kits or power of attorney kits.
Yeah. Well, let's start at the beginning. Divorce and separation papers. What can go wrong there? Ain't no problem there. Nothing at all can ever go wrong with that. Fill one of those in, get a Form 8A, and don't fill in your child's date. Don't know your child's date of birth. That's going to help you.
Oh, that's going to really help. Right? And also, too, your separation agreements. How do you know that your separation agreement is going to stand in court? Like I could put in there and says, okay, I'm going to divide all of my assets equally. I'll take all the assets and my husband will take all the liabilities. Hey, I don't think a court would look kindly on that one.
Yeah. So I'll have the Rolls Royce and you'll have the bill to pay for it. I'll have the swimming pool and you'll have the bill to pay for it.
I'll take the mansion and you can have the doghouse in the back. Things like that, like, yeah, you're mad at your ex. No, these are things that it's best to work with a professional to go through them. Actually, I actually advocate people mediating through a mediator and then having legal representation to draft them. Because once you do that, it saves you a ton of money. On what could happen is if you do your own separation agreement, and then it turns out to be a big fight, and then you end up in court, and then you have the courts make the decision over the long run, and then both parties walk away unhappy.
Mm. Well, I was going to say, if you've got no children, that's a potential start point. You can do them. If you're prepared to come up with, probably the most important point thing there, come up with a list of, come up with a list of things. I'm going to get everything in the blue, and you're going to get everything on the orange, right? On the pink.
Yep.
Okay.
How about the family dog?
Oh, we're going
to cut them in half.
No, we're going to do exactly what exactly what Sufi Sufi master once said, Sufi Rumi once said, which is we'll just cut him in half.
Yep, just cut them in half. The problem is, like, that doesn't do much. So these are why you don't do these things, and why you need to talk to someone legal and talk about it, get some drafts, talk about what you would like to see as an outcome or a proposed outcome. Your legal representative, your lawyer, will help you with figuring out what that should look like. Because many times people write things and then it has a contradictory effect. Like my father, for example, did one of your do-it-yourself wills, and he did it probably online.
We'll get to wills later on, so we'll
Yeah.
talk about that particular thing later on.
Mhm.
Yeah, but again, at the end of the day, surely if both ex-husband and ex-wife stand in front of a judge, they're just going to kind of go, well, what do you the judge is going to go and say, well, Mr. Jones, what do you want? Mrs. Jones, what do you want? Okay, all right, bye, see ya.
Mhm. Yeah.
But the whole point about a lot of, when it comes to things like family law, one of the areas that Ontario had a lot. There was a report made by the Ontario government about 25 years ago about providing greater access to justice. And one of the areas that they had of particular concern was, of course, divorce and separation agreements.
Mhm.
Right. So divorce and separation agreements are only important, are vital, but yet one of the questions that was raised at the time was, well, the only asset that many husbands and wives had was a house that was maybe worth, at the time, maybe 100,000, if that. Right.
Mhm.
And what was happening is the lawyers were taking 80,000.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why, trying to work through steps. And this is one of the things that there is a family law services provider program that's going on right now where some paralegals are taking it and can qualify to help navigate people through the family law system, to help them save money. Okay? My thing is, I can just tell you right now, these papers that you pick up from the stationery store or from the supermarket are not worth the paper they're written on or what's in the online. But working with a mediator, okay, will get you started. And then you go back to your own lawyer and then you work on the outcomes. And then once you finalize that separation agreement, then the rest of everything is just doing your joint agreed divorce, okay, which just goes through the courts. And as a joint application, it doesn't require a lot of appearances and so forth. Okay. Most of these divorces nowadays, people don't want to spend a whole lot of money fighting these things.
But who needs all
But
of
it's
that
important
anyway?
that you use legal services.
Come on, who needs all of that? I can just fill out the Form 8A from the courts and get on with it.
Yeah. Have you tried that?
No,
See what the reaction is from the other side?
I helped a friend.
Yeah. Okay, as long as they know and that it's happening, because that's sometimes what people expect. They're just waiting for one or the other to start it, right? And then they wait the requisite 30 days, and then they do a default and do a motion for default judgment for divorce, and then they apply for the certificate afterwards. I mean, these things, like, they're not that difficult, but however, don't screw it up. You want to make sure it's done properly, and you also want to make sure, particularly if you plan on getting married again, okay, for the divorce, okay? And for the separation agreement, it's very, very important. And also the note that there still could be property disputes afterwards. So this is why the separation agreement is very important, and why when you finalize your divorce, that's very important that you are in agreement at all levels. And equalization is sorted out, other types of property disputes are sorted out. These are things that people don't always think about. They lived with their spouse for 30 years, they've accumulated a cottage, they've accumulated 3 cars, they have a pool in their backyard, a fancy house, and they got all of these things that they have acquired. And then all of a sudden, it's a war of the roses.
Yeah, because it's not only the house and the cottage. It's the 3 vacation rental properties that they've got in Windsor and
Yep.
and the like.
Although paralegals at this time don't have the authority to work in family law, but at the FLSP program, paralegals will be able to do some services such as uncontested divorces and to file domestic agreements such as a separation agreement into the courts, as well as to help navigate people through the system. Okay, navigation is a very important role where a lot of people don't know what's happening. Okay, like, people don't get divorced every day. Okay, and this is often the first time people get divorced, or they're confused or upset. It's a very emotional process, and you'd rather leave it in somebody's hands who is less concerned about the outcome, but to work with you to achieve their outcome.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you say that people don't get divorced every day. I don't know. Some people seem to get a divorce at the drop of a hat.
Oh yeah, yeah. I might next week. Next week.
You might. Yeah, I don't think so somehow.
Next
Okay.
week.
Okay. The next item on our list is self-made wills.
Yep. Now this was one that my father made. He went online and he did his own will, or somebody did his own will for him, and it really was contradictory within itself. Like, he handed the executive authority over to his 4th or 5th wife that he had. And then there was also some property that she was supposed to give as executor of the will to hand over to split in 3 parts, like, to us kids, like myself and my brother and somebody else, that was related to his ex-wife. And somehow it didn't get there to the 3 parties that would normally get it. Because what happened was, in the process of writing that she had the right to live in the property, rather than just saying she had the right to live in the house for as long as she lives, but there is no instructions for how she is disposed of all the other properties, such as his bank accounts, his retirement monies, other types of things. So all of this stuff ended up going into her pocket. It was a very badly written will. Of course, my brother sent it to me, and I brought it over to a lawyer, and I asked him, I said, what the heck is this? I'm confused. Okay. I used to draft wills for a lawyer one time. It was just interesting because it just didn't seem to follow logically through a process. So the lawyer told me that it was not very well drafted, and that he can tell what the intent was, probably to have the wife live in the house, but she was to distribute all the other assets to the three of us. But however, because it was so ambiguous about some of the wording, that it didn't make it through that way. So she could have done this and she could have taken everything and not have any problems, where we would not be able to have an action against her or her estate. So this was the kind of thing that happens. If you don't want that to happen, make sure you talk to someone. You might want to make out your will using that, then bring it into a lawyer and have them review it to make sure it's going to do for you what you want it to do. Okay? So they can look it over and say, okay, so do you really want to give everything to your dog or your cat? Okay? Because that's what it says here. You're giving everything to Mimi, or to Misty, or all of these types of things. You can't. Like, are you going to be giving it to your kids? So you got 3 kids, but how come you saying you're giving it to 2 kids? You can't be leaving somebody out without expressing a reason to leave them out, and even give them some kind of gift, but not necessarily equal gifts. Sometimes that would work. But there's a lot of things that you need to talk to a lawyer about before you make a will. Artificial intelligence is even going to do it.
I was just going to say, you go to a law depot, you do the search. I just did the search a moment ago. Wilkett, Ontario, right? And you go to a site called Law Depot, which does papers and things for legal. They do estate papers, real estate, financial, business, family, incorporation, etc., etc. All right. And you get to this page and it says templates built by professionals, easy to understand legal forms, 7-day trial subscription. Well, it said free last will and testament. Yeah. So if it's, is it free? And then it says, who's this will for? Me or somebody else? Right. And then there's a big green button at the bottom that says create my document. So why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah. It seems so simple, right?
Yeah.
I just wrote a will. I used one of those. But it turned out I had to change a lot of paragraphs, add a few paragraphs, change a few things around, because what came out wasn't exactly what I wanted to see. Okay? But then I know a little bit about this stuff. Okay? If you don't know about this stuff, what should be included, what shouldn't be included, particularly for what your interests are. Okay? Like, everybody's different when they approach a will. If you just have your dog and your dog food and your cats and some furniture, and you rent your place, so that's nothing going to change. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter what you put in your will.
I was going to say, here we go. So I've just clicked that green button, and the next statement it says full name. So I filled in the full name of the person, William Timothy Smith. Hey, it's the one they suggested. St. Catharines, Ontario. Right. Save and continue. Right. So then it asks, are you single, married, common law? Right. So you click on one of the above.
It's complicated. Right. That's what you put. It's complicated, like on Facebook.
And Mary, and now since we used Thomas Smith, William Smith, we're going to call her Mary Smith, right? Now let's go one further. Mary Lucy Smith. There we go.
Yep.
Okay, save and continue. Do you have children? Now this is where it gets difficult, of course.
Yep. Like if your children are older. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people who don't leave anything to their children. I was hearing about Warren Buffett. He doesn't want to leave a whole bunch of money to his kids. He wants them to learn how to earn them himself. Okay? So there's a lot of different things. There has to be a reason. In Ontario, I mean, if you're going to leave somebody out, there has to be a reason. Yeah, it's not that they don't allow you to, but it's just that they need to know in case somebody's going to sue you about it, sue the estate about it.
Okay, so do you have children? Yes. Morgan Quinn Smith. Here you go.
Morgan Quinn Smith.
Is this child a dependent? No. Okay. So you can add another child if you want, if you want. But hey, I'm not going to do that. Let's save and continue.
Yeah.
Right. Estate assets. Do you want your spouse to receive the assets of your estate, excluding any specific gifts? Well, the easy answer there is yes, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if your spouse and spouse, grandchildren, and children pass away before you, how will your estate be distributed? Right.
To the Humane Society.
Okay, let's put that one. Okay, so who will receive the given to somebody else? Who will receive the estate? Charity or organization? Humane Niagara.
Greater Niagara Humane Society.
Humane Society. I don't know what their registered charity number is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. City or town. Yeah, I don't know. City or town.
St. Catharines.
Not in Alberta.
Some
Right.
4th Avenue, St. Catharines.
Yep. Okay. So given to somebody else, right? That's if you don't have beneficiaries, right?
Yeah, exactly. There are people who are alone. They don't have family, but they may have substantial assets. So what are they going to do with it? Okay. Sometimes they give it to a friend. Hey, you can give it to a friend, or you can give it to a cousin, or you can give it to an organization, or you can just set up a foundation in your name and have somebody be appointed to run it.
Yeah. And for example, this calls it a wipeout beneficiary, for example. Now, I haven't a clue as to what one of those is.
But a what?
A wipeout beneficiary. There you go. You see, there's where the element of legal advice comes in. And we're doing this live online, right?
Yeah.
So, do you want to leave any specific gifts in your will? Yes. Okay. So gift recipient, charity or organization. Why are you again giving me Alberta? Ontario, I said. So if I'm going to give charity or organization other...
Yeah, so just figure out if you got that antique cabinet that you might want to give someone, or if you have some specific items of jewelry.
Well, here you go. So you can do an other charity or organization. There you go, Invictus Legal LLP.
Yeah, that's a good cause. That is a good cause to give to. So anybody out there who's making their wills, Invictus Legal LLP is a great cause to donate to.
So what am I leaving to Invictus Legal LLP? $0.27. How about that?
You're mean. You're mean.
Yeah.
It's Thomas Smith or whatever. You're mean. Yeah, that's why you have to be very careful about these things, because a will has to flow logically. Okay?
Yeah.
And although those things kind of help you a little bit with it, but it doesn't necessarily apply well to you, because that's what my father used, one of those. And it ended up in the hands where it became too ambiguous. Yeah. Because you can assign your executor a certain amount of power, certain amount of rights, and you can also instruct your executor to ensure that X number of dollars is immediately given to somebody else, like a child, a grandchild, or somebody.
Well, I've got one here. Okay, so the next one is inheritance delay. Do you want any minor beneficiaries to wait until a certain age before they receive their inheritance? Yes, the age is going to be 72. Oh, it only goes up to 40. Damn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 72. That's when somebody became king, wasn't it? Or 73?
Well, I just wanted to be obtuse, you know that.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
executor details. Do you want Mary Lucy Smith to manage your estate? Oh, not in a million years. She'll get it wrong.
Yeah. She'll blow all the money.
So would you like to add another executor? So those are fairly easy, right?
Yep. Yep. These are questions that you want to ask. And then also, too, you need to talk to your legal representative, your lawyer, about what does an executor do? What are the traits I would look for in an executor? You'd want to find somebody who's not going to go running to the casino and spending all the money. Okay?
Okay.
And you'd want to find somebody who would probably respect your wishes the best they could.
Yeah. The next one goes backup executor. Who do you want to name as an alternative executor in the case of Lucy Smith is unavailable? Well, I better name somebody, I suppose. Who do I know around here?
Jack Jones next door.
Tommy Jones might work.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, just in case the originally named executor is unable to do it or does not wish to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right.
This is a very good thing because that's what I did. I appointed an executor plus I appointed an alternative executor. And it's also good to think about somebody who's younger than you. Okay? Yeah. You don't want to appoint somebody who's older than you because you will outlive them.
Okay. Next question here is, do you have any pets? Right?
Yep.
All right. So we'll skip over that.
Where all your money should go, Peter. To the care and feeding of your pets.
We're skipping over that one for now because that's another horseshoe. Additional details. Do you want any additional instructions? Yes. Give $127.002 Western General Hospital.
Yeah.
Toronto. Yep, you see, because they did good eye surgery. Now I can't see it all. Where was I? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so things like that, okay? But you have to be conscientious when you do them. I mean, like people do those things. Take it into a lawyer. Make sure that your wishes are respected. Talk to a lawyer. I want to know if I'm making a good choice of executor. Just because a person's your best friend, you hung around them since kindergarten, doesn't mean they'll be a great executor.
Yeah.
Or your wife or your husband doesn't mean they're going to be a great executor. You want to make sure somebody who you know will respect your wishes, who may have a good head for money, who doesn't waste money. Because last thing you need is if you're going to pick somebody for an executor and you want the money to go to your children, and this executor goes off to Niagara Casino, and there goes their inheritance.
Yeah.
There's things that can happen to that person who does that. But however, who wants to go through the legal hassle? You want to make sure you're trying to put the money in good hands and put your assets in good hands.
Yeah, and you end up with a printed document, of course, which, as with any of these sub-services, you got to pay for.
Yep, you got to pay for them, and then seek legal advice to make sure it's an accurate document. Yeah. And some things are more complicated, like partnership agreements.
Well, I ran through that online because there's been lots of will statements available forever online, hasn't there? Probably you've been able to get wills since probably that's the first legal document most people have ever done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably since the 80s, you've been able to get online wills.
Powers of attorney too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you do a partnership agreement, for example, that's a lot more complex.
Well, yeah, and then when you're getting onto what you call business contracts here, right?
Like ours is 30 pages, maybe more?
Well, actually, there are business contracts. You could probably get a commercial lease online, right? Pay a few dollars for it. You could get a whole heap of other. You could probably get business waiver agreements, whole heap of other things, other business contracts.
Yeah, but you also have to make sure, are these legal in Ontario? Are they legal in Canada? What are the consequences if I sign one of these and then something happens? There's a lot of things that you have to be very, very careful with. And then partnership agreements. There's many different types of partnerships. So you want to engage in the type of partnership that you want to engage in. And that's best for the type of company that you're involved in.
And there's literally dozens. I just typed in business contract templates onto Bing, and there's literally dozens of these things out there.
Yep. I did that for a few things, and then you and I just wrote our own business partnership agreement, and we wrote our own lease, commercial lease. We write our own stuff.
Yeah, because
right? And then we have our own schedules that we add to them, and I mean these are things that, well, being in the legal profession, we can do this. We know them, but for people who aren't in the legal profession, you're going to start an ice cream stand, and you want to have something there, in place to write it up. Hey.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of these contracts, you start with a contract agreement, and you kind of look at it and you kind of go, well, that's not what I want. That's not what I intend.
Yep. Like we've had one person come in, like for example, we've talked to people who come in and says, well, I've loaned this person some money, but they came in and says, he's not paying me back. He's not paying me back. But there was no date when the person was supposed to pay them back.
Yeah.
There's some issues with that. So there's a lot of things that you need to have in a contract. Things have to be firmed up. There has to be an unequivocal agreement so that it is clear.
Yeah, I'm gonna supply you 15 bananas a week. But it doesn't state what state they're in. So I find the 50 moldiest bananas in the store and send them to you every day.
Yeah, or banana peels.
Yeah.
You can slip on them.
It's important that you actually are precise in your business contract.
Yep, you have to be very precise about what it is you're supplying, where you are supplying them from, in terms of suppliers, supply chain, that sort of thing. Well, also, how much?
Yep.
And does the amount change from year to year, or does it stay relatively stable upon a renewal of a contract and it might change? So there's a number of things like that.
Yeah, but also with things like, say, bananas, we were talking about bananas then, there's actually there'd be a market price that would be set by independent market research.
Yeah, exactly. You can have that. There's different things that go there that could be set through a third-party source.
Yeah.
Okay, that's easy to understand or get the figures from.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that type of stuff where things go. I mean, this is where a lot of people, they get into this. Oh, I could do all of that myself. You know what happens? I like it when people do that because they come into our office. Oh my God, I'm being sued. Oh my God. And I thought this protected me. Who wrote that contract? Oh, I did. I wrote it from online. Hey?
Actually, there was one important factor that I learned a long, long time ago before I started writing contracts. Right? A contract is here not for the happy days. Hey, Angela, I'm glad to do business with you. Fantastic to meet you. I can sell you any number of bananas and apple pies that you need. Just call me up any day and I can send them to you. It's not for that kind of day. You don't write the contract for that kind of day. You write for the contract for the day when, damn you, Angela, you keep undercutting me. You won't ever give me value for money you won't allow me to make a profit on my apple pie and bananas. You never allowed me to make a profit. I make 12 cents a dozen. And you think I can live on 12 cents a dozen? I'm no longer going to be doing business with you. You're gone.
Or for example, if you said you delivered X number of bananas to me and X number of apples and X number of oranges to me, but you actually didn't deliver them, but you still invoiced me.
Yeah.
That's strange. That happens,
And that's exactly why. But that's exactly why you write business contracts.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Things are good. It's for the time when things are bad.
Yep. So that you can say, okay, you can't do that, or you can sue them if somebody fails to deliver on it, or if they are doing something, or they're going behind your back and selling bananas and all that stuff for cheaper to somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? Well, they're supposed to be in business with you. And there's some things with exclusivity. You're allowed to have exclusivity for certain things. Okay? But you have to make sure you spell it out what that means in the contract. You can't just go in there and say, you can only deal with me. No. But you have to be dealing with, like if he's going to be selling bananas for 69 cents each, he's going to be selling bananas for 69 cents to Bob, selling bananas for 69 cents to Peter, selling 69 cents to Joe, okay? And not going to somebody like Sue and selling her 39 cents.
Yeah.
So there has to be a way to moderate and to be able to protect oneself.
Yeah, and in contracts like that, you might well have a sliding rule for volume. So if I'm selling you a 10 dozen boxes of bananas, you get them at 69 cents a pound. Whereas if I'm selling Sue 500 dozen boxes of bananas, she gets them at 49 cents a pound.
Mm-hmm. So these are things that always have to be spelled out explicitly.
Yeah.
Right?
You can get the 49 cents a pound, but you've got to buy more boxes.
Yeah. Or I would have to do the same as what Sue is. Right? So these things have to be demarked so that you're dealing with things, because you're in the business of selling bananas.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is where it goes. Okay? So, and then there's also some things where there could be an exclusivity in terms of your business contracts, like your like if you want to do, say if it's a professional service or some kind of, like, say if you're coming here and we're going to be inventing something and we're putting together a piece of software or something like that, that you're not going to go behind my back and doing that same piece of software with somebody else. Okay, so there's got to be there's always these sorts of things when you draft up a contract, and this is why you have to be exceedingly careful. You have to ask yourself, depends on the business, selling bananas, as long as you're doing things on a fair trade basis, like we just discussed, or if you're doing something more specialized and requires exclusivity. Right? Yeah. So these things are very important to include it. Also, what you expect of the person.
Yeah.
Right?
And typically, the one thing to remember also about a lot of business contracts is a lot of these contracts have been around for a long, long time. And for example, you as a store are buying bananas from me, the banana seller. And what do I do when we first come around? I bring my banana selling contract to you. And so I've got a pro forma contract that's already been, I've already used it for 1,000 other contracts before.
Yeah, like you have something that you use with other people, that you sold bananas to. So you come into me and said, okay, I'm offering these bananas for you, and if you want to accept it, this is what I sell them for, and this is how often I deliver.
My terms and conditions.
Yeah. And then I could look at it and say, hey, this is great, Peter. Sure, right? Or I could say, Peter, I can grow my own bananas in my backyard.
Yeah, you don't have the backyard. You don't have the backyard space that I do. You've got it. All right. Okay. So another thing, of course, about business contracts is actually you've got to have a business to start with, haven't you?
Yep,
So
you got to be able to
you've got to
incorporate
be,
it
yeah,
or set it up as a sole proprietorship or a general partnership or an LLP, or there's various ways of businesses being set up. And that, again, you should be talking to a legal professional about the best way to approach it.
interesting though. I've got a story for you. In UK, I could go on to Companies House website and I can check whether the name of the company that I want to set up, Magic Sparkles number one, whether Magic Sparkles number one limited exists or not. Hey, look at that! It doesn't exist. So now I punch into buy a company and I do Magic Sparkles number one.
Yep.
And I've got my company in about 30 seconds.
Yep. And then you can sit there for another company to fill up and another company.
Yeah.
Now you have a whole bunch of companies. Now what am I going to do it all? Sell them.
I can also set up Rider Company number one that owns all these companies.
Yep, there's a lot of things. Like they used to do what they call cyber squatting. Okay? Where they used to get names like Coca-Cola.com. And then they wait around until Coca-Cola finds out that you have it. And then you would go in a bidding war to see how much Coca-Cola is willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's legal anymore, but
until Coca-Cola hands you a piece of paper that says lawsuit.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so, cyber squatting, you have to be extremely careful. Right?
So it is possible to do business incorporation online. It's possible to do business incorporation yourself. But generally speaking, in Canada, not so easy.
Not so easy. You have to be very careful what these things, the articles of incorporation, what you're going to be putting in, the type of purpose of the corporation, what types of rights does that corporation have, what classes of shares you want that corporation to have, a whole bunch of things. Again, legal advice.
It's all mine, I tell you.
Yeah. 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 Because these are things like, because later down the road, somebody's going to start complaining, when they get involved with what you're doing, and then they complain because you, first of all, you promised them to have that you're going to give them a good say in the company when you're going to be paying them for things and maybe putting in a set of preferred shares, but maybe you didn't give them common shares. Yeah. There's a number of things that you have to make sure that and these things have to be set up properly so that there's good records kept, a minute book kept, all that stuff.
So ultimately what we're saying is right at this moment, you can't exactly set up a corporation. It's not available off the supermarket shelf right now.
Yeah, no, I can't just go in and buy a nice publicly traded company because I feel like buying one. They were on sale last week. Blah, blah.
50 cents ago. 50 cents ago.
Maybe what you did at Company House. I don't know.
But that's just the differences per jurisdiction, right?
Yeah, exactly. These things vary from jurisdiction. Yeah. Like in the States, they register everything in Delaware.
Some people do. I prefer Utah, I think.
Yeah.
A tougher corporate bail in Utah, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard. I was reading up on these a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
But it's best, regardless of what you do, whether you get it done online, whether you see that, talk to somebody. Talk to somebody about the best way to go about it. You don't want problems down the line. And also, corporation doesn't completely absolve you of legal responsibility and liability. So you have to be very, very careful with, like, you just don't say, oh, I'll just get incorporated and then I can do whatever I want. You got to be careful.
And here's the other thing about that, of course, is that, we've already said this can't really be done in Ontario off the supermarket shelf. The other thing you also have to be careful about within business incorporations is, you owe a favor to Cousin Jack. Right, so you put Cousin Jack on as a 1% shareholder. Now, of course, what happens is somebody goes and looks up your company under the Ontario business listing. Now, Cousin Jack's on the lawsuit.
Yep.
He's
Mhm.
going to be mighty.
And he was intended to be a silent partner.
Yeah.
Right?
He's going to be mighty mad that he's now being sued.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Be very, very careful who gets on those paperwork. You know, you don't want that.
Yeah, because every one of them, every one of those people who's named on the paperwork can be sued.
Yeah, same as if you get into a realty situation where you own 2% of the property that I own 98% of.
Yep.
Okay, so something about my property, and then they want to infringe because my property is causing problems, nuisance happening on your property. So they're going to go after you too, even though you only own 2%.
All right. Well, we'll get actually the next one on our list is actually buying and selling a house.
Yes, this is an interesting thing because people are going on there and said, "Who needs realtors? Who needs lawyers for a sale of a house? Who needs all of this stuff? I could just put it on Kijiji."
I can see this one on the supermarket shelf. You know, hey, I've got number 49 Walton Avenue up for $197,000. Oh, sorry, $297,000. Got to get the ticket price right. Who wants it? Who wants it? You take it away and you take it to the cashier's thing. Yeah, like that's going to ever work, right?
Like it's going to happen. Like selling a house. Okay. There's so much complications in selling a house. Okay, because this is registered property. There's also issues with selling your house about things that you don't disclose, but you know about. There's also other issues like
Cousin Vinny was murdered in the cupboard under the stairs.
Yeah, like just underneath just by your basement, there used to be a graveyard. Remember the Poltergeist, that movie?
Yeah.
That they moved they moved the headstones, but they did not move the bodies. They built on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I guess the bodies came up to haunt the people that were in the houses. But this is the kind of thing like where buying and selling a house. I mean, yeah, you could figure out some things. There are specific forms to use to put forward for the sale of your house, and there's steps that they would tell you to take, and to how to register your purchase and your transfer of land, and there's a land transfer tax.
Well, there are people do it themselves today, right?
Yeah, there are people that do it, but really, if you're going to get a mortgage on it, get a lawyer.
Well, in fact, actually, if you get a mortgage on it, there is no choice. You are going to have a lawyer, because the mortgage company isn't going to give you the money without that money, without funds going into a lawyer's trust fund.
Yeah, because when I first went to the bank, the first thing I knew when I knew that I was going to get my mortgage, they asked me, "Who's the lawyer that you're going to use?"
Yeah.
Okay, so I gave them the name of a lawyer, and they did it. Okay, and he got the money, he transferred everything over, and then he worked with me on the balance of the purchase. And the lawyers do a very, very good job of that sort of thing. And they make sure that you're protected. They want to make sure that, first of all, that whoever's selling you the house is truly the one that owns that house.
Yeah.
Okay? Because sometimes you don't know if you're doing it yourself. Okay? There are ways that they check to make sure that it's not a tenant of that place that's actually selling you the house. Or some other scammer from Nigeria or something.
Yeah, exactly. And
there's a lot of things you have to watch. So these are why you have to work with the legal profession. And condos are even more complicated.
Well, I was going to say one of the key factors about buying or selling a house is that with buying or selling a house, most lawyers will give you a fixed rate. And there's a reason they'll give you a fixed rate is because they damn well know what paperwork's involved in it. They can make a profit on the fixed rate that you give, and it seems reasonable, and you think, well, it's a reasonable rate. It's it's $10,000. I can't lose on that. And the point being is that they've costed that out to the nth degree.
And
So,
it's worth every penny of it. There's title insurance that you can buy, right? And that also protects you against certain issues too when you have your house.
and
In
fact,
case you later on discover there's an encroachment or something.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that people don't know. Oh, I could buy my own house, or I can sell my house to anybody. Oh, well, a lot of things to be careful with. It's very easy to think you can do all of this stuff, or maybe in the future we'll have AI robots do these things. I'm not so sure. The human touch is always going to be needed. The human touch has this discretion.
Yeah.
Okay. AI has this ability to understand logic and where it should go, but we have the discretion as humans to say, let's not go in that direction because that's not the right direction to go. Okay. For you, it might be better to go this way. Right?
Yeah. Let's bring the next one. Let's bring the next one into place where we can all have a great laugh. Because this one, this is the reality of this is it's here today.
The tenancy agreement. Oh my.
Because in fact, actually, most landlords know how to fill these out. The corporate landlords do thousands of them a year. They know exactly how to fill them out. But there's one person who perhaps should never fill one of these out. Do you know who that is? In my view, realtor.
Realtors. Never use a realtor for that.
Never use a realtor. If you're going to come, if you want to find, if you've got questions about a tenancy agreement, the legality of a tenancy agreement, I'm going to suggest to you there's only one set of people that you need to go to in Ontario. You can knock on the door of Invictus Legal. You can call 905-688-5598 or email Angela at We're Invictus or me at Peter at We're Invictus. That's the best way to see that you've got a tenancy agreement that works.
Yep, because right now in Ontario, you can only include the Ontario Standard Lease.
Yeah.
Okay, you fill it in, according to asking the questions, and then there's also Section 15, where you can add provisions. Okay, because there's always provisions or stipulations you can add, and we know what you cannot add.
And there are things in that contract that have very serious, where there is a bunch of yes or no tick boxes. It's important that you get that right.
Get it right, because it's gonna come back to bite you.
Yeah. Is parking free?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you
can't go back later on and say we're charging $75 a month for parking.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Right. So there are key questions like that you really should be getting advice on.
Yep. These are a lot of things, and it's very, very important. And that's why we don't like to, that's why when we have people who tell us who are in lay forums, like landlord and tenant forums and Facebook and other places where people talk about these issues, where people give each other legal advice and neither of them are lawyers or paralegals. And we kind of wonder, I said, maybe stop listening to them and give people a call who are a paralegal or a lawyer.
Yeah.
And get your specific questions answered so that you're not going to be making a mistake. Even getting these books or your little software packages or your online law depots or whatever, you have to be really, really careful.
Well, the thing about going into a landlord into a Facebook landlord forum or a Facebook tenants forum is that, hey, they are all the members there are all tenants, or the members there are all landlords. Do they know the law? No.
A few of them might have a good idea of the law, but I wouldn't take legal advice from them.
Yeah.
You have to be very, very careful. Hey, they knew how the law worked for them, and they've worked it very well and got it sorted out for themselves. But to give somebody else that legal advice, not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people's situations are very different. Like we came across a situation recently. Person just got taken out of their place, got to come back. Their place is gone after
Yeah.
they come back.
Yeah.
So, how do we figure that one around?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make sure, and also when you're renting from someone as a tenant, are you renting from the landlord, from the owner,
Yeah. Oh,
or
yeah.
somebody authorized by the owner? Or is it just some tenant who wants to get out of there and then collect rent from you? And then, meantime, takes 6 months for the landlord to figure out what's going on and then sees you there, and you're going to become an innocent third party. There's a lot of things that happen. That's why these things, you have to be extremely careful when you do these things.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. One of the things we've talked about here over the last little while, and we've joked at it, but it's going to become a thing of the future. Artificial intelligence for filing. Now, remember, the thing about this is artificial intelligence today is quite young. It really isn't artificial intelligence yet.
Well, artificial intelligence, when it starts being able to do my dishes, mop my floor, clean the house, answer the door, all that stuff for me, then I'll say it's really artificial intelligence. I said, hey, this is cool.
No, you're looking for a robot, Angela. Artificial intelligence. What I need from artificial intelligence is a person who's going to make sure that it posts calendar items from my. So I get an email that says you've got a meeting on such and such a date. Therefore, that meeting goes straight automatically into my calendar. Is diaried ahead. Conflicts are identified as early as possible, and I've got something that can answer the phone. Hey, this is Peter Giblett, secretary. You can leave me a message, or I can help you with your problem.
Or they can weed out the Karens and Kevins. That would be good too.
That would be good. That's a good part of it. Yes. Oh, okay, Karen Jones, you're a real Karen, aren't you? And the other thing is, so they can set up, they can kind of minimize my problem parts of my day. That's what I want an AI to do.
Yep. And what we have to do with AI is we have to make sure that humans are always in charge of AI.
Yeah.
No matter how intelligent AI becomes, we always have to be in charge of it. If you start letting AI become in charge of AI, then that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Well, for example, there's a feature on my email software that says reply by AI. Now, I did a little bit of experiment. You've written me a 300 word email detailing what I want, what I should do. So I click on, hey, reply via AI, and the AI can do quite a reasonable shot at a reply, but I have to go through it, and I have to say it's going to say, in relation to next week's meeting, Angela, I'm not available on Thursday. Could you book it for the following Monday? That may well be a valid response.
Yeah. And then also to fill out things, like sometimes you have to make edits. You have to make some changes. Okay? Like people say, oh, I could write a book with AI and then I could just pass it off to a publisher and then I can make lots of money. No, no, no. You have to let the AI write some of it, then you have to research it, then you have to edit it. Then you have to smooth it out so that it's written by you and it's from your ideas, even though AI helps you structure it.
Yeah. You and I did this experiment with AI about 6 months ago, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We were trying to write a long, complex article about it, and we actually we got reasonable sections by saying, write me 300 words about X, whatever X was. And it was pretty good. Wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, what I would do, it's a good starter, and it allowed me to kind of go through, and I'd say, "Oh, I don't like this sentence
Yeah.
here. I don't structure it to say this."
And
And
it gives you a structure. Like it's like building a basement or a foundation. You've got to build a house.
yeah,
And you got to paint the walls. You got to separate the rooms. You got to do your blueprint. So I mean, this is where it does. The AI provides that foundation.
well, the good thing about that though is if you think about it, if you were to write your book in 300-word chunks, you can kind of do 300-word. Write me a paragraph. Write me 300 words about X. Now you edit those 300 words, and maybe you now say rewrite this so it's grammatically correct, right? But again, I wouldn't say that I would rely upon AI to get the grammar right. Grammarly, which has been around for a long time, consistently gets grammar wrong.
Yeah, and spelling too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be a long way off before we can really use AI for what people think it does
Yeah.
or can do.
Yeah. I think we're kind of in 20 years' time, we're kind of be, you know, the Star Trek character of, hey, computer, can you get me all of the engineering reports for the Starship Enterprise for the last 4 years, and how many times have we, I want the fault reports for the times when we've come across these Class 2 galaxies.
Yeah, or remember that movie Knight Rider, that series Knight Rider,
Yep.
okay, where Kit was the car and then Michael was the driver, and he would ask the car different things. The car would come up with all these answers. Okay, he would ask him. He says, "Where is this person from? Where did they come from?" Then the car would come up with an answer. Okay, so that kind of thing. That's way, way, way off in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, probably not so far off in the future. We're probably getting there, but
Yeah,
again,
or he'd say, "Take me to my girlfriend's place," and then they
which
start
one?
going to one
Which
direction.
one?
He said, "No, not that girlfriend. This one." Thought I'd had that one for you.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking here about um, finding legal products on the supermarket shelves. And in some respects, we've been covering some of the products that you might actually think might end up on the supermarket shelves, and how how the sort of things that we can see that might well be some of the easy peasy parts of the legal world, except they're not quite so easy, are they?
Yep, not
Right.
so easy.
And the worst of this is that we've got dangers in this, because what happens when you fill out it, putting aside AI, right? What happens when you fill out a form and you fill it out wrongly, right? There's a legal question asked in the form, and you misunderstand a word in that legal question.
Yep. Or you fill it out wrong,
Yeah,
or you miss the date by a date or something like that, or a
yeah,
date. And this thing can be thrown right out.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And for example, we had that example I went through, did the will on online, and of course you got to pay to buy the will, and it's a good starter for 10, right?
Yep.
That's about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that if I were in the business of filling out a will at that point and wanting to create a will, I might well be saying, okay, I'd be prepared to pay 27.50 for this document,
Mm-hmm.
right? I probably wouldn't be wanting. I certainly wouldn't be wanting a perpetual license.
I wouldn't want to rely on this 100%
Yeah,
as to be my full and final will.
yeah. I
Okay,
know.
you'd want to make sure that that gets reviewed by somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say but it gives you 27.50, gets you a starter for 10, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
And then once you see a lawyer, the lawyer will say, well, he'll talk to you about what you would like to see happen and so forth, give you a consult, And it says, if I were you, I'd change this, I would change that, and maybe add this. Okay?
Yeah.
And then you add all that stuff, and then you got yourself a will, and they can bring it back in and then have the signatures done and then put it wherever.
And the interesting thing is about that is that I think that you can certainly do some of these sort of things. They can be made a lot easier by computers, but I think they're an aid, not the final result, isn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're aid. Computers can make your life a lot easier. They can also make your life a lot harder. But
Oh, yes. Sometimes it says, like, the error is human, but to really foul things up, you need a computer.
Yeah. There's a different. The IT world had a different interpretation of that saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But the point well made. Right. So the point being is that yes, you can do a lot with some of these toolkits out there. We talked about supermarket store, but in fact, in reality, you're never going to get a lot of these products from the supermarket. You're going to get them online, aren't you?
Yep, most people get these things online.
Yeah.
And everybody's doing things with their cell phones or whatever nowadays, and they think they have it. It's you really have to be careful.
Yeah, but you could probably do you could do a search like business contract terms and conditions for force majeure.
Yeah.
And you can probably get.
And then there's the tests, if you want to look at that so that you can put this correctly in place. Like, this is what I did when we were starting to draft our partnership agreement. It took us a long time to put it together, to come to terms with it, but Peter and I did it.
Yeah, but you and I have prior knowledge about drafting.
We're legal professionals.
Yeah, and both of you and I have drafted contracts many
exactly.
years. Yeah.
Like, we're not just coming online and saying, "Oh, instant business contract, just add butter."
I think butter will foul it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to grease the palms. It's going to make a mess. All right. So the other thing to consider about a lot of these, when you're talking about wills, when you're talking about divorce agreements, you've got to also think about what are the courts going to think? Right. And for example, you and I do a lot of landlord and tenant stuff. I was actually in a landlord and tenant hearing the other month, and the landlord made this thing. Oh, that's what it said on the form. I just followed the form. Right.
Yeah.
Mistake number one.
Yeah. Oh, I just followed the form. I just filled it out the way I was told to. Told by whom?
Yeah, my friends on the Facebook.
Yeah, I got this from Facebook. Honest to God, from the University of Facebook.
and fatal mistake number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right. And honestly, this landlord was surprised when the adjudicator said, "That's not. I cannot permit this. It's not legal. What you're asking is not legal."
Yeah.
Ooh, why not?
And people would be very surprised to know what's not legal.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's to a large extent why you need to start calling a professional. We've had some jokes here today about forms, and there's some interesting things, and undoubtedly in the future there will be some supermarket-based legal products around. They're just not quite there today.
Oh, maybe they'll have you and I sit in a supermarket and help people with them.
Oh, there's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Supermarket notaries. Yeah. Well, actually, it's an interesting thought, because actually you could have your office in the supermarket, couldn't you?
Yeah, that would be weird.
That would be weird.
But I suppose that's an idea that has been tried possibly, and people will find it popular because they just go there and they're there.
Yeah. And you think about this, that you'd have to have somebody, if the person's open, you wouldn't be doing things like having LTB hearings at the supermarket, would
No,
you?
no. You'd be just doing things, notarizing documents,
Yeah.
looking at things like that, doing a commission, that
That's
sort of
not a
thing.
dumb thing to do. That's not a dumb thing to do. So
Yeah.
I'd certainly be looking out for that one in the future.
Yeah.
But again, that comes under the category of why you need a professional.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Okay. So it's been kind of a semi-fun day. And that was the whole point of this, is to actually bring a bit of education, but do it in a fun way.
Yep, exactly.
So let's finish this off by saying, if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so on 905-688-5598. Email Angela at angela@weareinvictus.legal, or me at peter@weareinvictus.legal, or you can visit our website, weareinvictus.legal. And I will leave it for Angela to finish the day off.
Okay, so what you heard today on Spin Legal, whether it's in this show or others in this series, or whatever you heard on Facebook, this is not legal advice. If you do need legal advice, then contact a paralegal or a lawyer. Okay? We're listed on the Law Society site, so you can find out who we are, or you can just contact Invictus. It's easy for you. Okay.
Have a great day, everybody, and enjoy your week, and we'll be back next week.